You are Locked On Hawks Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Hawks Postcast, your home for the best Atlanta Hawks talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere but here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra. Batiste. Alongside me is NBA and college basketball analyst DeShaun Tate. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And of course, our Locked On Hawks Postcast is also part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, last game of the season, and the Hawks will not be looking back after today, but they also didn't look back at a critical point in today's game. We will talk about that. And Keaton Wallace, big time coming from College Park to Atlanta for this Hawks team today. But ultimately speaking, despite the fact that the Atlanta Hawks get a little payback on the Orlando Magic today with a 117-105 win after a loss to the Magic last week. DeShaun, you said your take was not impressed.
Not impressed at all. You know what? And I was going to say, you know what? I'm sitting there watching. I'm thinking like, this is cute. You know, they got the lead and everything else, able to hold on to a lead. I guess it took games like this against teams like this, playing players like this, us playing players like this, for us to be able to say we can hold on to some leads and feel somewhat pretty good. And that was cute. What wasn't cute was the freaking turnovers that we always keep talking about. But I know that you have to put an asterisk on this game for obvious reasons. The free throw shooting wasn't cute. I know you got to put an asterisk on this game for obvious reasons, but I'm just not satisfied. Yeah. I'm just not. Like, you had your chances at this team with everything riding on it, where you could have been the one getting that 7 seed. That could have been you. And you had this exact same team, not having to rely on, well, we're going to get them again. No, not even knowing. When you get them again, it's not going to matter the same way. Right. It's cool to have a win, but I don't like my wins like this. And actually, I'm a little bit peed off that I'm able to win this way when I'm playing what I'm playing and they're playing what they're playing. But I'm not able to do that when it matters the most. And when it's ultimately going to matter the most, as we're obviously going to find out here within the next couple of days, is, when we find out who's going to be a lock for the 7 seed. But I will say as well that it's not just because, like, this is not just in the Eastern Conference. This is not just a team that, had been flourishing a year before. Mm-hmm. And obviously has taken some steps back. But even when they took some steps back, you still haven't been able to kind of ride that wave and leapfrog them. But this is also for the division for the division as well, in the Southeast Division. So it's a lot riding in on this. I think it was cute, but I need them to go out there and get their real revenge, the real big payback. What are we looking at? 48 hours or so?
Yep. 48 hours to make something different happen. When you first gave me your take, I kind of chuckled because I was like, okay, that's interesting. But then I know you well enough to know that there was going to be something extra behind it. And I got to tell you.
Perfect description of this guy, extra.
Yeah, exactly. But I got to tell you, I actually disagree. I don't give them a pass because you have to take advantage when you are given the opportunity to get on the court, number one. Number two, you have 48 hours within which you have to get prepared for this team. So to me, everybody out there should be playing at their highest of levels. And then another thing that bothers me as well is, okay, guys, the ones who took the court today, right? These are players who are, unless I'm missing something, DeShaun, they're also trying to make the case for themselves to make a squad, to get an invite to Summer League, maybe some of them, to make a squad for next season, an NBA squad for next season. So this is an opportunity for you to show, and there were some goods in what they did, and I will talk about those goods in a sec, but there were some opportunities there that were left on the table because, hey, if I'm looking at your numbers and your numbers show that you only shot 60% from the free throw line,
Correct.
Then I start questioning your fundamentals. It doesn't matter who's on the court. That's a you thing, because nobody's standing at that charity stripe with you from the opposing team, other than, of course, them lining up to the side. But what I mean is they're not in your face. They're not actively defending you at the free throw line. So that was a you thing. And then when you have 16 turnovers and you allow that other team to get 22 points, but yet they turn it over just as many times, almost 15 turnovers, but they only concede 17 points. I got to with that, because to me, that has nothing to do with who is or isn't on the court, because let's not act like the Magic laced up all their superstars either, right? I mean, they had a decent mix, but Pablo wasn't out there. Pablo Banchero wasn't out there.
Oh, no doubt.
So Franz Wagner wasn't out there. So therefore, they kind of played a little bit no different than the Hawks. The Hawks didn't play all their second line players. They didn't play all their bench players, right? Mm-hmm. There were some starters out there as well. So both teams kind of gave you a mix. And with that being said, that is a little bit disconcerting and not cute that we saw what we saw tonight, because that was still some of what the Hawks are going to see Tuesday. And I think the other thing for me was that kind of has that feel of can't get right. And the game with can't get right. Yeah. Because you look at it and you say, okay, today is when the Hawks decide to win a game. Like, not last week when it could have given them an opportunity to actually maybe get in that 7th seed and maybe host a play-in game. This is the one you choose to win? Well, guess what? Here's the news flash on what that does for you. That's a problem, because at the end of the day, you could have lost this game with incentive to lose, because draft purposes, Hawks, Mavs, Kings, everybody has 39 wins. So it would have really been better for Atlanta to finish behind Sacramento, not ahead of them. Because at the end of the day, this team is probably going to continue to be built out through the draft. We're not probably going to see the Hawks land some amazing free agent. So if there was an opportunity, and granted, they did it last year with what, a 4% chance of getting in the number 1 pick? The Lightning probably is not going to strike twice.
It's not.
So it would have been nice to see them, I don't want to say lose, but let's be honest. Did the NBA not invent tanking? They pretty much invented the art of tanking. So if the NBA invented the art of tanking, this would have been a great opportunity to maybe say, oh, wait a minute. I see Keaton Wallace trying to go off. Yeah. Let me take him out of the game. That's enough points for you, sir. I think you've made your highlight reel for what it is that you want to do to make a team next year, make this team next year. Time to take him out. Or Jacob Toppin. Oh, wait a minute. Jacob Toppin, Garrison Bird, or Gary Bird, as we like to call him, Daquan Clyde. Oh, wait a minute. You guys are trying to hit well from deep. Oh, no, you got to go. Because we're trying to get up here and get a high draft pick. And I think, DeShaun, would it be considered a better class this year than last overall?
Oh, ain't no question.
Okay.
But I will say this much. I'm going to tell you what it's kind of starting to sound like, and just correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Okay.
It almost kind of sounds like Tenitra Batiste got her eyes on that freshman from Duke almost. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't, I know how you are about Duke, and I'm like, no, that don't really sound like Tenitra. So I was like, let me just ask Tenitra, give her the benefit of the doubt for her to be able to stay for it. Because it almost kind of sound like, and I'm like, I don't know. That don't sound like the Tenitra I know, but
No, because I'm not about a loss. I still always want to get guys to win, and I darn sure don't want to be advocating for anybody coming from there. But on the same token, this franchise is going to be built from the draft. So if there's an opportunity to even jump up, and maybe you don't get the 1 spot, but even if you get the 2 or the 3 from maybe being somewhere languishing in the middle, that would have been nice. Sure. And you don't have to explain anything, because this game didn't have any meaning for you. You were solidified 8, yesterday in last night's game. So at the end of the day, I'm sorry. I mean, and Landry Fields, let me just say one more thing. Landry Fields, you come from the land of tanking, where they originated tanking in San Antonio. So you know what it looks like to tank exactly and for it to pay dividends, man. I just really wanted just this one time. But not so much.
Yeah, I don't know, Tenitra. I just think that reality is this. All right, no matter what today, they could have just went out there and just not even played that. They could have canceled this game for as far as me and just about probably almost everybody else is concerned, because we all know what we're waiting to see. I'm just hoping that today didn't give nobody no false hope of nothing. No, didn't give anybody an inkling of being able to say, because there's always that one person that's like, well, I don't know. They might have a chance. Did you see him on Sunday? No. That's not how that works. There's always that one person when you're like, none of these dudes are going to see the floor. And when I say none of these dudes, I'm obviously being a little facetious. But like, people are going to take this a lot more serious. Like, this was the equivalent of, it was like a summer league game. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen summer league games that just appeared more competitive, and respectfully, because I know this is going to sound terrible and I know we're up against it. Forgive me. But I'm just the guy that's sitting on the lazy boy, sitting back and watching it and having that whole. I get all of that. But beyond that, you can't tell me that I'm wrong. That's what everybody thought when you knew that they had a chance to get some get back against Orlando. But you found out Orlando won the game against Boston and that they had solidified theirself in the seed. You then found out that the Hawks were going to win, solidified theirself as the 8, and you knew that this game meant nothing. You knew that what you got tonight was exactly what you were going to get tonight, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah. Exactly. And let me just clarify for Robert, because he said the Hawks don't control their pick. I thought San Antonio has the Hawks first round pick. But what I'm saying is when you look at the scenario overall, when you're looking at the Hawks, you're looking at Dallas, and you're looking at Sacramento having come into the season or into the day with 39 wins, what it means is that 2025, those draft picks are tied. And so the coin flip might be needed to determine which pick goes to Atlanta. But if you had lost the game, if the Hawks had lost the game, it just would have been improved their draft position relative to the Kings, as they have a top 12 protected pick from the Kings. So that's what we were looking at, Robert, in terms of what a loss could have done for the positioning that it could have been for the Hawks. And at the end of the day, when you can get that higher positioning, maybe you're outside of the lottery and you don't have a chance at the number 1 pick again. But what you would probably have to do is not try to like scramble for the player that you really want, whomever is on Landry Field's board. You wouldn't have to scramble to get that player, because let's remember, the Hawks aren't exactly dealing with a boatload of assets as they come into this upcoming draft. But what they did have was a lot of moxie today, a boatload of moxie, especially as the end of today's half was coming to a close of the first half. We'll talk about that in a turning point. This episode of our Locked On Hawks Postcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. Baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. So this week, pick Aaron Judge for more than 1 home run. Pick Shohei Ohtani for more than a stolen base. It's that easy. Setting up a lineup takes less than 60 seconds, and when you win, your payout's quick, safe, and secure. Always take advantage of Taco Tuesday, where Prize Picks offers discounts on select player projections for even more value. So download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks helps you to run your game. So, DeShaun, let's talk about the turning point. With about 4 minutes left in the half, the Hawks went on a 10-2 run. And yeah, the Magic were able to get it down to single digits at one point, but really the Hawks never looked back. That was kind of the turning point to say, hey, the Hawks started this game in control. They got to the half. Magic tightened things up a little bit, but ultimately this kind of showed you that the Hawks weren't going to relinquish control today.
Without question, Tenitra. And I think a lot of that was very much in part because of what Dominic Barlow was able to do. I mean, I'll be honest with you. A lot of the times I see Dom get in there and I kind of wave him off. It's like he's not even in there to a degree, right? But I feel like that's some earned that you've got to keep. And he did that, during this run. They got out onto a 10-2 run at the end of the second quarter, and they didn't look back. They held on to the lead. They put their foot on the gas as much as they possibly could, considering what they had out there on the floor. I think we have to keep on mentioning that because that is the reality. But what Barlow, and not even just from a scoring standpoint, but he had a couple big time rebounds, offensive, defensive. You know how I feel about offensive rebounds already. He had a dunk during that time as well. And so I think that, that you have to definitely give credit to the guys for finding a way to be able to, I guess, separate themselves and be able to hold on to that separation. Those were some of the things that I think were the biggest takeaways during that time that they went on that stretch, because without having that, you're looking at a neck and neck game all the way through potentially. And we all know how important it is to finish off a quarter, especially a half, going into the locker room, what kind of confidence that gives you in that locker room, and coming out of that locker room to then, don't skip a beat and jumping right back on top of them to continue, kind of picking up where you last left off.
I think so too. I think that all the reps that your young players can get in order to be able to replicate some of that in the postseason when the pressure is on a little bit more, especially in that play-in round where there's a little bit of a sense of win or go home, although in the 8 spot, you get another crack at it. But ultimately, I think that as much as I didn't necessarily like the win, only because I was like, but there's some draft things going on that are hanging in the balance. Ultimately, I think that the good of it is those guys got a lot of reps, and those guys were able to see, okay, when a game tightens up like this, and they know it, Dominic Barlow and some of the other guys that we'll talk about in a second, they know because they play in the G League. And let me tell you, DeShaun, a 10-point lead or a 12-point lead in the G League is like a 1-point lead. A 20-point lead in the G is like a 1-point lead. So they kind of know what this looks like as far as when a team storms back. But ultimately, on the NBA level, it's moving even faster. So I think you make a great point about what that could mean for these guys. And also, I think that what Dom showed was really just the ability for this bench mob to say, hey, we got a little something to say about how things are going or how things will go as well. And that's why we talked about them and the bench mob as what we'll be talking about.
This is what you'll be talking about.
So DeShaun, the bench mob 2.0, second unit, whatever you want to call it, they absolutely showed up and showed out for the Hawks today. Really great game, almost up and down because of the 4 players who got time today and got some extensive time, by the way. Garrison Matthews, 37 minutes. Beat Krejci, 28 minutes. Jacob Toppin, 27, and Daquan Plowden, 31. All of those guys scored in double digits. Not even all of the starters for the Hawks scored in double digits. So I think you got to give so much credit. And there's something that I wanted to show you that our guy Malik Brown actually tweeted out once Veit himself was asked what he could say about the staff, the Hawks staff, as they've helped him and several other players throughout the season. And obviously outside of Garrison Matthews, Jacob, Daquan, Veit last year, and of course Don Barlow this year, all of those guys had time in College Park and had time developing under coaches that also come up from College Park and coach with the Hawks. Veit says, quote, I think just from where we started and the development we had, a lot of guys got a lot better throughout the year. You can see it on the paper and you can see it on the court. And I can't agree with them more. That's probably the one thing, despite maybe the Hawks not growing or improving exponentially as much as we would maybe like them to, the one thing I will say is you got to give them a world of credit for what they do in developing players in College Park, because not only DeShaun did those 4 guys coming off the bench, scoring double figures, and I'm going to put Keaton in there because Keaton was a starter, of course. Dom was the starter, but ultimately speaking, Dom finishes 15-5. We'll talk about Keaton in a second on the other side, so I won't bring him up right now. But Jacob Toppin, 17, 14, and 2. Daquan Plowden, 17, 4, and 2. And B. Krejci, of course, coming from College Park late last season, 13, 7, 7, and 3. That's really, really impressive. That's the kind of thing that maybe DeShaun can give you some hope about what the Hawks are building.
By the way, you mentioned something about not even all the starters scored in double digits. The two regular starters that ended up starting in this game are the two that didn't score in double digits, by the way.
Exactly.
Ironically and coincidentally enough, however that works out. But I think that it says at least a little bit of something. Am I, running home to tell mom and all that? Probably not. But when you have four guys that, a couple of them don't. One of them I've never even seen in an Atlanta Hawks uniform before goes in there and scores double digits. He ties for the most amount of points off the bench of anybody coming off the bench on today. The other guy I've only seen like once coming up from the Skyhawks and playing with the Atlanta Hawks. He's the other guy that tied, by the way, for the highest in double digits. And last time I saw him in a Hawks uniform, he went for a ridiculous almost like 20 points or something like that the last time I seen Daquan Plowden. So again, like I just think that the craziest part about this is that it looks like they're recycling bench players. Like you take the bench that had been playing so well, one of the best benches in the NBA, you move them into the starting lineup. So you would think there's an empty hole left behind in the bench area, but there's not. Like it's like a never-ending revolving door of just good talent that knows how to fit into the system and knows how to play. These guys were out there looking like that they've been playing together for years. It looks like they have. Because they have established because of College Park, establishing, developing and establishing the chemistry.
Yes.
I don't know the last time that Garrison Matthews was sent down to College Park. I don't know the last time that V. Krejci was sent down to College Park, but it just looked like there just wasn't a drop-off because some of these guys, even though I know a lot of them play together on the regular, I know some of these guys don't just inevitably. These guys are over here on the road. These guys are over here on a whole different plane or bus. So, but it looked like it just never was a difference there. So I think probably that's like one of the more impressive things that I can say about the bench is because I'm like, when I'm seeing or kind of, I guess, halfway paying attention at one point in time to like just hearing it through my headphones, like, oh, Atlanta Hawks bench comes through big again. And I'm like, well, yeah, no duh. That's what they always do kind of thing until I start thinking about that bench that I'm used to seeing is now in the starting lineup. So who are these guys? If it wasn't for the next guy that we're going to talk about in the player of the game, that reason alone, the bench would have been my players of the game. First time.
I like it, DeShaun. Yes. So agree. And listen, I know we got to get to a break, but I just want to make a counterpoint to what Anthony White said. He says the Hawks have enough young players and not enough vets. Young teams rarely win. Well, Anthony, if you joined us in our first segment, you would have known that we already addressed that because, hey, man, which we appreciate you. So don't leave us. We appreciate you and come back Tuesday when we start talking about the playing game. But yeah, we acknowledge that the Hawks do have enough young players and they're viable players, not enough vets. Unfortunately, the Hawks are not a team that at this time is a destination for veterans, for a lot of the big time free agents. So they're going to have to do maybe like a Denver Nuggets did, like that franchise did a couple years ago. It took them 8 years from maybe drafting a Nikola Jokic and a Jamal Murray, but they had to wait to build through the draft because they could only get players like a Contavious Caldwell-Pope, those players who still weren't like top shelf, but they were at least coming from championship teams like the Los Angeles Lakers. Right. So Anthony, hopefully the Hawks will be able to build that cachet at some point to complement all these younger players. But for now, all you can do is be impressed about the way that they develop talent. But speaking of the way they develop talent, one of those guys that looks so good from his development, we had to give him the crown today. This episode of our Locked On Hawks Postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Now, how do I love FanDuel? I love it because it makes betting so easy, whether it's picking a favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That's FanDuel.com to claim your $250 in bonus bets today, because when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. So get to winning.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
So, DeShaun, I got to read something that Robert said because it kind of goes to what we're talking about. He said, I think Quinn may be the difference plus the young talent, and if the Hawks spend some money, they can be a destination team. I would definitely say you're not wrong about that. Quinn Snyder makes a world of difference. I thought when he was with the Hawks about 10 or 12 years ago as an assistant that he had the makings of a really, really good head coach. The developmental pieces there. The guys start, even the coaches, by the way, they start off in College Park. And then if they do well, then they get promoted. So last year's coach, he got promoted to Atlanta. This year's coach, wouldn't be surprised if he gets promoted to Atlanta either, because that's how they develop young talent on the sidelines and on the court. Now, the money piece, well, not sure when that's going to happen. I think that's one of those where unless and until Tony Ressler and the rest of the ownership decides that they don't mind really, 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 I'll say cutting the apron strings for those second aprons, if you will, those basically barriers and markers that the NBA has for each and every team to decide, hey, do you want to go past it and you want to get into the luxury tax and all that? That's something that has to happen if you want to get those veterans and if you want to make this a destination team for players across the association. But it is a destination team if you're a guy who's in the G League who wants to make your case for being in the NBA, just like Keaton Wallace, 15 points, 11 rebounds, 15 assists, 5 steals for his triple-double. Only guy to suit up in a Hawks uniform this season since Jalen Johnson to get a triple-double.
Triple-double and a half. Like you said, don't forget about the 5 steals.
5 steals.
That's saying something. I was thinking to myself, they said something. I heard the name briefly, and of course I'm watching the game and I'm doing something and hear 5 steals. And I'm like,
what? Who?
Wait, Dyson Daniels? They put Dyson Daniels out there. Oh, that's not Dyson Daniels.
That's not Dyson Daniels.
Well, then who? Keaton Wallace. They said 5. Are we talking about the same Keaton Wallace? Yeah, triple-double. Are we talking about the same Keaton Wallace? Yeah, Keaton Wallace. I'm like, no. I'm having this conversation in my head looking crazy at this point, Tenitra. That's what, listen, Keaton Wallace, and you could tell when he was, and maybe this is just me, and maybe you could tell me this, during those moments when he was out, I think you can kind of tell sometimes that he was gone. He wasn't bringing a big spark every single game and this and that, but there were just certain things that stuck out to when you knew that Keaton Wallace was on the floor. And we always keep on talking about not having that backup point guard and everything else. So we know by committee this year and, by default, whatever, there were a lot of more instances where we had to see Dyson Daniels kind of playing that backup point guard role. But for a guy with the inexperience such as Keaton Wallace, and I know we're at the end of the season just about, and I don't know how much more Keaton Wallace we're going to get ready to see after today. With the inexperience, with the lack of experience in so many ways that he has, and to come in and have to play behind, I'm sure he's just getting all these reps, having to chase a guy like Trae Young around every day and practicing. He did a really good job this year for the Atlanta Hawks, considering everything that they had going on. Because you just didn't have this, you didn't have that, and it's just it was a lot. It's a lot of wear and tear, and that's a lot of responsibility. A point guard, that's your quarterback of a football team. Like that's a lot of responsibility. And am I gonna? is he going to be an all-star someday and all that? Maybe give him an A++ and all that? Probably not. But considering the circumstances, he did a fine job. I'm glad to see that he went out the way today that he did, because you got to remember, you're seeing there, you watching, everybody's talking about your brother, Keaton Wallace, and this and that. And,
Right.
Trae Young has the keys to the city, and the everything has to go through so many other guys before you even get your opportunity to even be able to put the ball in the hole sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
They keep bringing other guys from other teams over, and it's kind of like it's difficult to be sitting in that line when you got bills to pay and you got a roof that you got to put over your own head and stuff like that. So it's a different element to this game when you're in positions like guys like Keaton Wallace. But I'm glad to be able to see that he got his shine on today, because he definitely did that.
Yeah. And almost 3 months ago, remember, it was the Keaton Wallace game up in Chicago when
That's right. That was the guy.
When everybody deaded the Hawks because nobody was playing. Not Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, only Dyson Daniels from the true starting rotation. And that was also before Onyeka Okongwu took over for Clint Capella, and Jalen Johnson was already done.
Was that a Plowden game that I'm thinking of too?
That's
maybe?
that Plowden game too. Yep, it was Daquan. It was Keaton with 27 points, 6 boards, 6 dimes, and 4 steals, by the way. And it was Daquan with 19 points and boards in that game. So, and each of them had only 1 turnover. So really well-rounded play, almost 3 months to the day. And to be able to see that again for both of them, really, because Daquan had a nice game today as well. But to see that, I think that means that's good stuff for the Hawks. But like I said, now it's time to compliment them with the veterans. But before that happens, first things first, you got to get through the play-in round, which starts on Tuesday. So let's hope the Hawks have actually been fairly okay getting out of the play-in round. Let's hope this is another one of those times. Locked On Sports Atlanta is the #1 place to hang out after every game. Remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more on the Hawks, check out Locked On Hawks with our guy, Brad Rowland. We will see you next time.